The 2023 NHL Draft Lottery was held last night. While Montreal didn't win either of the two first picks, they also didn't drop back. Habs GM Kent Hughes held a press conference after the lottery and was asked about a lot of things, most especially about potentially drafting Matvei Michkov. Some of the things I took away from the press conference about drafting Michkov, trading the number 5 pick, drafting best player or by need, and more. Hey everybody, I'm Rick. Welcome to Talking Habs. The NHL's draft lottery was held Monday night, and the Montreal Canadiens were able to hold on to their 5th overall pick. They didn't go forward, but they also didn't drop back, so it's a minor win. And after the draft lottery was all done, the Montreal Canadiens GM Kent Hughes had a little press conference, and this is what I took from that press conference that I thought was important. It concerns rumors about trading the 5th overall pick. Of course, Matvei Michkov, if they will take him or not. Anyways, I'm going to talk about these things. I'm going to give you my opinions at the end or during, and hopefully you'll leave some comments and tell me what you think about all this. And here we go. One of the points that I took away from this press conference is that Hughes is open to all possibilities about player trades and about trading picks and things like that. He said they would make these decisions about whether what they're going to do with the picks and the player trades when and if they come up, right? Because there's rumors swirling around about that they're going to trade that 5th overall pick. Asked about trading that 5th overall pick, he said, I'd say it's highly unlikely, but it's not, I can't say it's impossible. Now, I've gotten to learn a little bit about Kent Hughes over the last couple of years as he's been here. And, he's not the kind of guy that shuts the door on anything, right? So he's always open to a possibility. It doesn't mean that he's going to trade that pick. And I'm going to tell you what I think it'll take because I asked what will it take to get that pick. I'll tell you a little later in this video what I think it would take for them to trade this pick. Now, on whether they'll draft the best player available or by positional need, Hughes said, we'll draft best player available. Unless you feel there's a tie between two players and one fits a positional need, you draft the best player available. And by fitting the positional needs, that's a tiebreaker between two players that are equal. He also said there are alternative ways to get what you need, right? So and that's the best thing to do in a draft. You draft the best player available. And then, because usually players aren't ready right away anyways. And by the time they do join the team, your needs could be different anyway. His familiarity, he said, with players won't factor into who they pick, because we've talked about this. Take a player like Smith. He's coached him before. He knows him really well. He said he hasn't been behind the bench in 2 years to see players from that point of view, and he'll defer to his scouting department to make the picks. He'll give his input into any players that he knows about and knows of and all that kind of stuff, but he says his familiarity with any certain players are not going to be the deciding factor, and if they pick them, I guess. Asked about recency bias. So, there are a bunch of tournaments and about players that did well in those tournaments. He said they evaluate players on a lot more than recent tournaments. Potential for a long career here in Montreal, potential impact at the NHL level, character, injury history, etc. I say etc. because that a lot of that was in French and I didn't catch all of it because this press conference, as usual, mostly in French. He also said what they value in a player is hockey sense, and he seemed to talk a lot about hockey sense. This was a lot in French. Character, which we know for a long time that, they're looking for players that fit these specific things. Character was always a big thing, and he mentions it a lot. Compete, intelligence, and among other things. He said also that the player that they pick might not be the best, have the highest character, have the most intelligence, or the best hockey sense, but they have to be at a certain level. In other words, the best player out there, if he's horrible, like the horrible person, teammates hate him, all that kind of stuff, they're not drafting him, right? He has to check the boxes. They put a premium on these things when evaluating potential draft picks. Of course, he was asked about Matvei Michkov and whether, and if they'll draft him if he's available at number 5. He said that with Michkov, it's not just about Michkov's talent, because I think it's clear Michkov's probably at worst the third best talent there going into the draft before any of them have an NHL career. He would also have to check all the boxes as well. What type of player he is, what type of person he is, his character and compete level, and how he compares to other players in the tier. So now I think what he says that is, I think it's in terms of longevity in the NHL and with the team. Because they want to bring in guys that are not just that they're NHL players and that they can use in trades. They want to bring in guys that can be here, have good long careers here, and have big impacts on the NHL. It's that sustainability factor. He said it's difficult to predict what obstacles there might be to get Michkov here. And you would have to make a risk reward assessment. If a player is equal or very close to equal in talent to Michkov, you have to measure the risks and decide what's best long term. And he said, let me say this. If Michkov if they have a player that they feel is just as good as Michkov, in the long term, that Michkov situation is going to be the tiebreaker, and that they won't pick him, and they would go with the other guy. It's kind of what I've been saying. So my take on all of that with Michkov, I felt that Hughes seemed hesitant to say, and probably shouldn't say it so soon anyway, though, that it's most likely that Montreal is going to pass on Michkov if he's still there at number 5. And, especially if he doesn't pass he's got to check all the boxes. If he doesn't check all the boxes, he's there at number 5, and there's somebody that's pretty much equal to him, they're going to pass on him. That's what I got from it. I watched it 3 times, and I couldn't shake that feeling that, they kind of know they're going to do their due diligence and check on him and do all the things they need to do to research him or whatever. But I think they're leaning towards already not taking him. It's too risky and too important a pick for the rebuild. And their second draft. These guys, if they want to stay around, they need these picks to work out. They need a certain safety, I think, a safety value to them, I think. So it's too risky and too important for a pick for the rebuild to pass on the other guys that should be available. It's not like there's going to be nothing there afterward. I think it's a consensus that top 5 are Bedard, Fantilli, Carlson, Michkov, Carlson, and Will Smith, and depending on the order, except for the top 2. One of those guys is going to be there for Montreal. My hope is that someone's going to take Michkov ahead of Montreal, and they don't have to make a deal with this. And then that means either Carlson or Smith will be left. So that's what I'm hoping. But I don't know. I just felt he was hesitant to. It just seemed like a guy that wanted to say something else, but is diplomatic and wouldn't do it there. And which is the right thing to do, though. So moving on, he was asked about possibly having a third first-round pick, and that he could possibly be picking 3 times in the first round. He said he could have another first-round pick, obviously thinking that, they maybe could make a trade. He could acquire another one via trade. He could trade one of his first-round picks. So he could acquire a third one. He could trade one of his 2 picks, and he might be able to make another trade like the one that got them Kirby Dach. He kind of said like he could make 3, 2, or 1. It depends on the situation, what comes up. He's open to everything. He's going to probably talk to a lot of people, and there's going to be a lot of deals offered and whatever. And he doesn't know before that happens what he's going to do. My take on that is they're willing to listen to offers for that number 5 pick, but unless you knock their freaking socks off with that offer, they're not trading that number 5 pick. Also, they'll probably trade Florida's first pick in some way or another and try to make magic happen again, a la Kirby Dach. And he kind of said, not specifically to say it's going to be the Florida pick, but that they definitely would like to, to make another trade like the one they did for Kirby. He also said he's very confident, and he kind of underplayed that with he's so calm about everything, that he'll get a very talented player with franchise player potential, but doesn't want to put that tag on any drafted player just yet. Which is, it's smart. You don't want to put that kind of pressure on any of these guys that you're picking in the first round. But, truth is, he may find a franchise player there. He was asked how many players does he think are qualified to be taken at number 5 and need to be evaluated completely by the scouts, like he was saying about Michkov. He thinks it's a little early to tell, which makes sense, but his guess is about 10. Now, I was planning to look at about 5 guys that they might pick. Maybe I'll have to expand that, but it's early on. They'll probably narrow that down by the time, another month or 2 down the road, on draft time. So in the next few weeks, they'll narrow that down. But I guess that's what they're going to start out looking at, about 10, and then maybe add a couple more in there or drop a couple. We'll see what happens. In the end, I'm left thinking this. Matvei Michkov is not a lock by any means to be a Habs pick at number 5, if available. Michkov's situation in Russia would be a tiebreaker in case of players with equal talent, and Michkov would be passed on. And Hughes said this, as I said, he said that. He didn't say that Michkov would be passed on, but that Michkov's situation would be a tiebreaker if there's a player of equal value that they feel is his twin, is what he said. Now, I don't think there's a player that's Michkov's twin in this draft, in that little group. But I think if there's a player that's Carlson or Smith who will be available or won't, and there's a couple other guys behind that aren't that bad. If it's close enough and they feel the longevity with the team would be, they'd be here a long time. They'd have a high impact on the NHL and be huge contributors to the Habs push towards the cup. I think that Michkov's situation is the tiebreaker, and they're going to pass on him. So my feeling from everything I've heard from Kent Hughes in that press conference, I just got the feeling the whole way through, we're not going to take Michkov. Let me know what you think in the comments. Am I crazy? Whatever. Let me know what you think. And thanks for watching. Until next time, stay safe. Peace out. And I'll see you next video. Ciao, everybody. Have a great day.